Welcome back to the Call Up, your go-to podcast on the future stars of Major League Baseball. I'm Aram Layton. He's Jack McMullen. And today we are talking about some imminent big leaguers, prospects who we think can kind of break their way into the big leagues. And it's funny, between the last two episodes, we said we were going to talk about Luis Matos. He gets bumped up. Unfortunate circumstances there with the Giants as you have Mitch Haniger fracture his forearm. And that's why Matos pulled from the game in the second inning. By the way, Matos had already homered at that point, and they pull him out. He literally leaves right then, gets out to San Francisco, makes his debut yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about that. You got an in-person look at Ben Brown of the Cubs yesterday in AAA. We're going to talk a little bit about that because he was lights out, even though his stuff wasn't all the way there. And then we're going to highlight some of the other AAA guys that should be up. One thing I want to say before I kick it to you, Jack, is some of these names we've talked about a ton. And, at the risk of redundancy, we'll try to, get to a little bit of a different angle as to why these guys might not get up and what it will actually take for them to get up instead of just, they're playing well. Let's call these guys up. Because I think that gets a little tired. But then there's some other names in here that I don't think we've talked much about in terms of a promotion. I will say it's very hitter heavy. AAA pitching ain't great right now.
No, not at all. And we were just talking about that. Like, you were struggling to find FIPS under 2, and FIPS under 2 are really good. They're hard to find, but you find several at the major league level at all times. You find a bunch in AA, especially in the Southern League.
There's not a FIP under 3.
Dude.
I said 2 to you off the air. I just looked again. I don't know why I said 2. There's not one under 3 of qualified pitchers. No.
That's bad, man. Like, oh my gosh. So AAA pitching, I haven't really seen very many guys that are just dominant right now. You typically have one or two. Gavin Williams is probably the closest thing that I've seen to dominant, but he's fought some command woes over his last couple of outings. So it's interesting. And we're going to talk about Gavin a little bit more in this episode. But a guy off the top like Matos and Christian Encarnacion-Strand, that would be the second time we're talking about him this week. Like, we don't need to tell you much more.
No, we said that we were going to leave a little bit on both those guys to just kind of fill in the blanks here. And I think that more specifically, the way we'll fill in the blanks is just how they can get up. We obviously saw situation one, which was fastball to the forearm of one of your starters. And I love Mitch Haniger. That guy is just so unlucky, man. It stinks. Yeah. But the silver lining is instead of getting some quadruple A player which is also nice. Everyone deserves their crack. We get a little bit more prospect appeal though, with Luis Matos getting up there and picks up a hit in his first at bat. I feel like with Matos, there's a good chance that he doesn't come back down, because I'm looking at this Giants situation and the way we kind of talked about Matt McLain and he gets a chance before Ellie De La Cruz to kind of prove his worth and maybe force the Reds to put Ellie in a different spot or force them to figure out a timeshare situation there, which they have. It's been just fine, and they've been a big part of the Reds' success. If Matos performs, which I think he will, I don't think the power is going to perform the same way in that difficult stadium, but he's going to hit plenty of doubles, get on base, not strike out, play good defense in center. The Giants are this in-between team that they have to look at some of their veteran pieces, even if they're not selling, and say, hey, is there much of a drop-off? I know he had a big hit yesterday, but is there much of a drop-off between Mike Yastrzemski and Luis Matos right now? I don't know. Maybe they have the answer to that. They watch them more. But if the answer is maybe not, then go with Matos and trade Mike Yastrzemski. This is a forward-thinking organization that I don't think would be afraid of making a move like that if Matos looks like he can help them now.
Yeah, I think we typically want to view something like this, where top prospect comes up because of injury, as the Wally Pipp situation or the Bledsoe situation. Like, Gehrig came up in the 1920s and Wally Pipp. And then Brady came on and replaced an injured Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah.
With the contract structure of Mitch Haniger, it's not going to be Haniger.
No.
But I'm with you. The Giants are in this phase where they have to do a lot of internal vetting on their roster. Matos is on the roster moving forward. Haniger is on the roster until his contract's up. Who can fall by the wayside? And I think that the Cubs are going through a similar situation, right? Where Morel is lighting the world on fire in AAA. He gets up. He's OPSing 1,000 at the major league level. Who does that push to the wayside? Is it an Edwin Rios, who you grabbed after he was non-tendered? Is it a Patrick Wisdom? Is he now a trade chip? So I think that the Giants and the Cubs are in a really similar spot. I think that Matos is going to stick. I don't think it's a direct replacement of Haniger.
No.
But Luis Matos and Mitch Haniger are going to share an outfield.
I agree. And the thing too is that, Yastrzemski, I'd need to watch a little bit more defensively, but I'd say at this stage, I think Matos could offer just as good, if not better, defense. I think he's been a fine defender so far this year, but he's kind of played all over. Yastrzemski has 40 games in center, I think 24 in the corners. He's been solid, but I just think Matos could give you something similar. They also have Jock Peterson. They have Conforto. So they have something to figure out. But if they really feel like Yastrzemski gives them the best chance this year, he's under control until 2026, then maybe they end up holding on to Yastrzemski, putting Matos back in AAA, because he should definitely just be continuously getting everyday at-bats, and kind of bank on the fact that they're going to lose one of Conforto or Jock anyways, which could be part of the reason why they hold on to Yastrzemski. So it should be interesting to see how they handle Matos, but it seems like that they're going to have some time to figure that out, because unfortunately Haniger might be out for a little bit. I don't know if we have an exact timeline on that. Regardless, it's a really exciting time for Matos. I think it's an exciting time for Giants fans to get another glimpse into the future. You've got Casey Schmidt up there. You've got Luis Matos up there. Marco Luciano is finally swinging it really well, by the way. He's on a heater. By the time we do the next heat sheet, he might be one of the guys on there with the way he's swinging it. So you can definitely see things trending in that direction for them, especially now with Patrick Bailey surprisingly holding his own at the big league level as well. And Blake Sable has been solid. So the young core is coming together there in San Francisco, and we know they're going to spend money this offseason.
And that's the thing. You're also finding vets to supplement the young core in a Tyro Estrada, in a Lamont Wade Jr. Like Lamont Wade's had a bounce back. He looks like a part of what they're going to do for a couple years down the road. Tyro looks like he's going to be a part of what they're going to do for a couple years down the road. So these are honestly some of my favorite situations to monitor, where the Giants were in a tweener phase, and you're going to see both. You're going to see guys get a crack at sticking on a big league roster for the first time in their lives. You're also going to get to see top prospects play in relatively high leverage moments.
Absolutely. And we'll get to another kind of tight roster situation right now with the Cincinnati Reds, without going too deep into Christian Encarnacion-Strand. And we can slice up the numbers in so many different ways to talk about how insane he is. And I did that in the heat sheet, because he somehow was better than his season OPS, which is crazy because he was like 960 at that point, and it was 1100 or 1170 over the span that we were highlighting. I think the thing that stands out the most to me with Christian Encarnacion-Strand, and the fact that he needs to probably be called up soon and tested, is that he pretty much answered the last question that we had, Jack, which was, can he walk? Can he be a little bit more patient? I do think that some of the uptick in walk rate is simply teams just not pitching to him. The amount of pitches he's seen in the zone has dropped continuously, because he is point blank the best hitter in AAA right now. There's nobody, I think, more feared than Christian Encarnacion-Strand in AAA. But regardless, an improvement in the walk rate and improvement in the K rate department is always going to be good news. He has cut the K rate, he has upped the walk rate, and now it's pretty much there's nothing that you can poke a hole in to say this guy isn't ready yet. 15% walk rate over his last 25 games, 20% K rate over his last 25 games. They have played him more at third. I highlighted that a couple of days ago. He continues to play more third. He's okay there. He's improved a lot. I talked about that like last year, about from when he was at JUCO to now in terms of the defense. I don't know how good it could be there. He has a rifle for an arm. So I think the fact that he's capable there, and that they're continuing to try him there as he's getting closer and closer to his big league debut, I think they want to have a little bit more versatility here. And you know what? The bat is what you want. And if he can just be even slightly below average at third, that's fine. And I think he's developing into that. So when do you think we're finally going to see this guy? Because the Reds are playing well at the big league level. You don't want to totally shake things up when they're going pretty well. But this guy can only help you.
What's so tough is catchers 2 and 3 behind Tyler Stevenson are playing arguably better than Tyler Stevenson right now. And Spencer Steer is hitting the ball really well, and he's playing first base with McLean at short and Ellie at third. So you're taking up the DH spot because Stevenson's in the DH spot. You're taking up first base because Steer is there, and you're taking up third with Ellie because McLean's at short. they're going to need to make a positional decision on one of these young guys.
And I think obvious. Oh, not even on the young guys. I was going to say the obvious decision would be to remove the DH catcher.
Yes, I think so. If I were to make a positional change to one of the young guys, though, it would be Spencer Steer playing a corner outfield. Like Steer needs to move to a corner. McLean playing center was the pipe dream. It's not going to happen. TJ Friedel's actually playing really well, and McLean's a good shortstop, man. I think Ellie, we've talked about it. Ellie can be an all-world third baseman.
Yes.
All-world. So just commit to it. I think if you commit to CES at first, India at second, McLean at short, Ellie at third, Steer in one of the corner outfield spots, slap him in left. Like, Stevenson needs to catch. Tyler Stevenson being your DH is no bueno right now.
Let him catch or get rid of him. Like, it's just that simple. Because, and I'm not a believer in getting rid of guys because you have young players coming up. But this is a different situation. This is a clog that you have right now. And he's not even that good of a bat. If you look at what he did in that stretch of like the shortened season and then a little bit before that, he definitely looked good, but he's been perpetually banged up. I don't think that he's a good enough bat to justify him at the DH spot. He's DH 3 of the last 6 games. That's just not a guy that I want on my roster. I don't want a guy that I'm trying to hide from the catching position and isn't a good enough hitter. He's not Salvador Perez. And that for that reason, and Salvador brings so many intangibles. Get Stevenson out of there, and I think they will move him. Or I think there's a good chance they move him at the deadline. But the problem is they don't really have a ton of catching depth in the system. They continue to try to draft catchers in the second, third round and don't really do well there. I could see them being all over Kyle Teal in this draft, but he might not be there for them because they got hosed on the lottery. The first lottery, the Reds got cooked. I think they have the 10th pick. So they're in an interesting spot, but I do still think that there'd be teams interested in Tyler Stevenson. I think they can move him, and I think it would clear up the situation a little bit because at the end of the day, this guy doesn't look like a catcher. So I agree. You had 2 games this year, I think, where Spencer Steer has played left. Spencer Steer is a really solid bat, but I think you dampen his value by putting him at first, even if he's a good defensive first baseman, because he's not going to offer the kind of power that position demands. And I think, that kind of takes a little bit of the value away from the bat. If he can be a league average defender in left, even slightly below, I look at Brian De La Cruz in left field for the Marlins. That guy is heinous, but he hits and, and he's not a liability on the base bats. He's a good player. Like, he's a good bat. There's just no way that Spencer Steer is a worse outfielder than Brian De La Cruz. I'm not willing to accept that. So I really believe that he can get comfortable out there. He's a good enough athlete and figure it out. But this is a great situation. Could you imagine telling Reds fans that we'd be having this conversation 2 years ago?
No, it's really cool. And like I saw Jeff Passan's appearance on the Pat McAfee show. Did you see that by chance?
No. Shit, that's awesome. I gotta go check that out.
Passan was on McAfee, and I'm typically not like a McAfee watcher, but Passan almost like lets his hair down a little bit on that McAfee show. And I love Passan. I think this guy unfiltered is so much fun. And he was talking about the Cincinnati Reds, and, they brought up Herbie's love for the Cincinnati Reds and the Herb Street, Ken Rosenthal thing, like really interesting. And the C. Trent Rosecrans thing. But what Passan was saying was this Reds team feels a lot like the Baltimore Orioles from last year, where they were shit in 2021, like horrible. And then all of a sudden there's this direct infusion of all world prospect talent, and they get fun and they ride that wave to being one of the better teams in baseball a year later.
Yep.
That's what the Reds can do with a fully healthy Lodolo, with Green back and extended. If Ashcraft regains form, with Abbott in the fold for a whole year, with Alexis Diaz. There's
Connor Phillips is coming, baby.
Connor Phillips. There's so many good things. So my thing is, if you can implement Christian Encarnacion-Strand to that fold, like if you can add that wrinkle now, you're going to be so much better at the beginning of next year.
Yeah. I think maybe they're waiting for some more clarity on Joey Votto, because once Joey Votto is healthy, you got to play that. You got to let that guy play. I think this is his final swan song, right? So
this is his swan song.
So that's like the Miguel Cabrera situation. It sucks. I know fans are going to be like, "What the hell?" Joey Votto's earned that, And the worst case scenario would be you bring up CES and then Votto comes back and now you're like, who gets displaced? And now you got to send him back down. That might be part of it. That's purely speculative. I have no idea.
But you don't need to. Like if CES is playing first, Votto is DHing, or like they swap and CES is DHing and Votto's playing first, like just make Stevenson catch or not have him there.
Yeah, exactly. Just make that dude catch. If he stinks there, like whatever. Kirk Casale's hitting like 114. I don't even know what he's hitting. And Maley, whatever. So this is a fun situation in Cincinnati. And I'll say a big reason why it's happened so quickly is Matt McLain. Ellie De La Cruz was supposed to do this. Excuse me. Ellie De La Cruz is the number one prospect in baseball. It's awesome what he's doing, but he's supposed to come up and impact. They don't always do that, but the number one prospect, that's kind of the expectation. Matt McLain, we were singing his praises, and I don't know if even we were expecting him to hit the ground running like this. That, I think, has been a huge X factor in their success. The other guys stepping up, of course, that's big. But when we look at the young talent, McLain exceeding expectations has to be one of the biggest things that's helped them. And then now you got the other guys, like you mentioned, that have really added to the fold here. So we'll bump over to another pair that we've talked about a lot, and we probably won't spend too much time on them, but I just want to kind of highlight how they can get up now too, because Colton Cowser and Jordan Westburg, I'm glad that we're taking this different angle of these guys are so good. These guys are so good. Like I can tell you 12 different reasons why these guys belong in the major leagues. Whether it's the fact that they are continuously getting better at their positions, whether it's the fact that they continuously are tapping into more game power, striking out less, looking better at bat by at bat, and just look like more complete players. Both of them impact the game in so many different ways. Cowser in center could play a really good corner. Westburg at shortstop could play a really good third base or second. The Orioles are playing great baseball right now. So it's really hard to say, hey, Orioles do this. Hey, Orioles do that, because they're doing it right now. And when it ain't broke, don't fix it. Again, here's a duplicate situation here. That also said, you could say, oh, well, then move them. But what if they really believe in these guys? Just because they're not up doesn't mean they don't believe in them.
Yeah.
It just means that they don't believe that Colton Cowser will be better than Austin Hayes right now, which that's acceptable. Austin Hayes is raking, and maybe they don't think he's going to be better than Santander. That's acceptable. Santander is proven to be consistent, and Cowser does have some splits issues. Westburg, I think you can make the stronger case for promoting, but every time I slander Adam Frazier, he rakes. I don't know what he's at right now, but I understand wanting to keep the veteran core or the guys that are up there right now there. You're winning. And maybe Adam Frazier is a big part of what they're achieving in the clubhouse. Aaron Hicks is playing well. Like, it's one of those situations where I understand. I know we always want to see the young guys. I want to see the young guys, but they might just be victims of circumstance here. Jack, like, what do you think?
So yes, I think Orioles fans are also probably looking at the lineup right now. And I do think that the Orioles fan base is one of the most in tune with the baseball aspect of this that I can interact with. Like, I love Orioles fans because they fucking get it. And they know that they had to go through the shit to get here. You look at the lineup that they're running out every day right now, and you see Ryan O'Hearn at first and Aaron Hicks in center. They know, they're raking, but they also know that they're time buyers because Mountcastle has vertigo and Cedric Mullins is on the shelf too. Yeah. So they're not time buyers for, two more prospects. Like, it's not like, hey, we're blocking Cowser with Aaron Hicks. No, you're waiting until, Mountcastle's healthy, and that's why O'Hearn's playing. You're waiting until Mullins is healthy, and that's why Hicks is playing. But what I will say is Jorge Mateo, you need him on this roster.
Yeah.
I think you need him as a bench bat. Yes. You don't need him as the everyday shortstop.
No.
As soon as they are ready to relegate Jorge Mateo to that utility role, pinch runner, high leverage runner type, then Westburg should be the shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles. You wait until Hayes cools off. You wait until Santander cools off. Santander was playing a little bit of first base at a point early this year for Cowser. Cowser is more blocked than Westburg is, I think. And you don't want to bring these guys up to sit on the bench. I think that's what's happening with Joey Ortiz.
That's a thing. And it's weird. I was sitting asking myself this the other day, because from what I had read, going into this year, the Orioles seemingly were higher on Ortiz than Westburg. At least that's what the energy was. That's what people thought. But
they're
I
both
don't.
falling.
But here's my question: are they higher on the guy that they're sending back and forth, like with frequent flyer miles in Joey Ortiz? Or are they higher on Westburg, who they're kind of protecting and letting just rake in AAA and not sending back and forth? So Ortiz is struggling in the big leagues. Then he goes back to triple. It takes him a couple games sometimes to get acclimated again. I think it's impacting his numbers in triple. He's still been fine, but I think it's impacting him a little bit. How couldn't it? You're going back and forth. I do wonder, like, who do they value higher? They keep going back and forth with this guy, but maybe that's because they trust him more. Or are they protecting Westburg a little bit more? It's an interesting situation. I think they do need to relegate Mateo. I think you're right. And I think they kind of have to a degree. He doesn't play every single day.
Yeah.
But I also feel like Adam Frazier, he's a good piece to have, but I'd rather see that guy on the bench as well.
I thought Frazier was going to see corner outfield time, but he's playing second base all the time.
Please no. Yeah, please no. And Gunner's starting to really heat up, like really heat up.
I'm bought in on what Gunner's doing right now.
Of course. He just had to work through some things. The league adjusted to him. He just turned 22. He's playing a little bit more shortstop now. So I prefer Gunner at short. I think that you go with either Westburg / Ortiz at second, and then you can maybe platoon them with Adam Frazier. Like if there's a really tough, hard throwing righty that you just don't want those guys up against, put Frazier there. If you want to just give him a day off, you like the matchup for Frazier, he has good numbers in his career against a guy, put Frazier there. But I do feel like they have to figure out what their plan is, and this is another team with a lot of moving parts. Ramon Urias is another player where he's just consistently solid, but he's just consistently solid. So it's one of those spots. I wouldn't change Urias though. He's got a 116 WRC plus. He's a good player. I would look at second base there. Keep Gunner playing shortstop more, relegate Mateo to the bench. And I think one of Ortiz or Westburg are giving you an upgrade there. And the outfield, basically wait until Aaron Hicks sucks, which I feel like is inevitable. It's awesome to see him performing. I love it when guys leave New York where they get booed and succeed elsewhere, especially when it's in the division. But if that time comes, then I think it'll finally be Cowser time. I think Cowser has leapfrogged Stowers for sure in the pecking order now.
So my other thing is I think that they may need to clear some space. And I think that they should be hitting, what is it, Mike Chernoff? Yeah, Mike Chernoff is the GM of the Guardians. I think they should be hitting him every day. We got a text from Ryan Finkelstein, our managing editor at justbaseball.com earlier today, and they want to put something together on the Orioles being the perfect landing spot for a Bieber, a frontline starter. And if Bieber is somewhat available right now, force their hand right now because Cowser's ready, but blocked. Yeah. If you offered Hayes, Kjerstad, Stowers for Bieber,
I think that's too much.
That's too much. Okay, so Hayes and Kjerstad.
Yeah, that's exactly what we propose. Exactly what Peter and I proposed on the Just Baseball show. I think it was Santander and Kjerstad.
Yeah, see, like I think they get a big league bat to make them like better at the point or make the offense better, and they get another big league ready prospect.
Yeah,
for Shane Bieber, and you clear space for Cowser.
To me, that's the easiest decision to make. And then you look at some of the other moves that they can make. You have Stowers, who struggled, but there's still plenty of teams that I think would have interest. Send him to one of the rebuilding ball clubs for some pitching and a reliever.
For a 5.
Yeah, send him to Washington for Trevor Williams and maybe
send him to Detroit for Lorenzen.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I think they're going to do it. I'm really interested to see what the Orioles are going to do. We've been so eager for them to make moves, but maybe this is all kind of played right into their hand because now they have all of these resources. They have more clarity on their roster, and all of their guys have only appreciated in value, pretty much, except for Stowers. So they're in a great spot. Yeah. Let's fly through now the individual names. We're not going to go as deep on all of these players, but these are a bunch of different guys that we wanted to discuss. You have Bo Naylor on here, and I wanted to mention Bo Naylor because he might not be so imminent, Jack. They just bumped him down, if I'm not mistaken. Are they like trying to figure out how they're going to get him to catch more? Like I'm so confused on what the situation is with Bo Naylor. I feel like every time he's going to get ready to get called up, it just seems like he might not. I don't really know what the read is with him.
It's so stupidly weird. I don't know what the read is with Naylor, but I've watched a guy that I think is just ready, like full blown ready. He walks enough. He's hitting for enough juice. He's a 900 OPS guy in triple. Like, I don't know why they're not clearing a runway for him to join the Guardians.
It's got to be the catching side. It's got to be the receiving. I got to watch more on the receiving side.
But like, holy shit, dude, is their catching situation any better?
I don't think so. I'd rather let him struggle and see what happens. I just feel like every time he's about to be ready to go, he gets like bumped down in the pecking order, or it's a weird spot. There's something that they don't like. I don't know what it is. He stole 2 bases, by the way, yesterday. So he's just such a sick athlete.
Yeah.
Also, though, as a catcher, opponents were 2 for 2 on him yesterday. He has struggled to limit the run game. And I think that's part of it, but that is also something that can be on the pitchers as well. It's a hard thing to be able to totally attribute to him, but in the last 10 games, base stealers are 9 for 10. That's obviously something they're looking at, but he went through a stretch before that where he was actually cutting down runners. So it's interesting. I would be more than willing to give up a little bit on the base stealing in the base stealing arena for way more offense, given that this team can't hit a lick and you're going to get potential offensive upgrade at catcher. And I don't think he's a liability there. So it's really weird. The Bo Naylor situation is one of those that I won't pretend to totally understand. I'm going to do a dive into the receiving a little bit more just to try to get more of an idea of why this may be happening, because it just is weird to me. Even if you don't put him in against lefties, he's demolishing righties. Just let him demolish righties and catch. And honestly, there's days where he'd probably be one of your better options at DH with the way some of these guys have been swinging it.
So a rhetorical question is my only thing on Naylor. Do you want his 900 OPS, or do you want Mike Zunino and his 580 when he's hitting a $177 and not limiting the run game at all, or Kim Gallagher and his 350 OPS?
Is Zunino not throwing guys out?
I don't think he's throwing guys out. I think people are running rampant on the Cleveland Guardians.
So basically, would you rather have Mike Zunino stealing strikes or Bo Naylor picking up hits? Like, it's just, and you can have both. You can have Zunino as the backup. You can still have him catch plenty and have him catch the guys that like throwing to him. The only thing that I can think of is Guardians pitchers don't like throwing to Bo Naylor, but it didn't sound like that when we talked to Cal Quantrill on the Just Baseball show. It didn't sound like that when we talked to him and asked him all about it. So it's an interesting spot, and I feel for Naylor, but he is just 23. He's got time, but he should get a crack soon, and I think he will. I do think he will somehow.
Opponents are 40 for 48 in the stolen base department against Zunino.
Jeez. Okay, so like it's really just about stealing strikes. Like, that's it.
It's good.
Crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Another catcher, real quick. Ivan Herera. Weird situation in St. Louis, because in St. Louis, we've got a 4-year deal worth $80 million for Wilson Contreras.
The 85.
And, he's not moving off a catcher. Well, we don't think so. It depends on how the Cardinals are feeling in any given day. Ivan Herera has answered a lot of the questions that we had about him. He looks fantastic. He's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting in the air more. He's using the whole field. He looks fantastic. His approach is great. He's cut the chase rate to 16%. Every concern I had about Ivan Herera has been mitigated. He's got power too. He looks really good. And I think that the Cardinals are in a weird spot because Herera is a top 100 prospect now. Looks like it. And it depends on how concerned they are about Wilson Contreras. They were concerned enough to relegate him from the starting role in the first month of his gig. Do they look to maybe move him to more of a DH role and have Herera be that catcher if they really like him? Are they in a position to move off of Herera because they signed Wilson Contreras? I don't think so. So Herrera's kind of stuck too. What do they do here?
Trade him. Trade him for pitching. It's so weird, because shouldn't you be holding on to prospects when you're the worst team in the National League? You have the worst.
That's why I think they hold on to him. And they're the worst team in the National League. Wilson Contreras has been bad.
But do you genuinely believe that they are going to operate like a seller?
No, but I
That's
don't
the
think they're going to
thing.
operate like a buyer.
But reach, I think they might. Like deep in my gut, I'm reaching into my soul and I'm saying, what are the St. Louis Cardinals going to do? And they're going to say, oh, this is a bad division. We can come back and win it
Yeah,
until
which
they're
they can.
mathematically eliminated.
They can though.
I know.
But if Wilson Contreras was performing, I'd say move him. But I feel like there's very clear questions that the Cardinals front office has about Wilson Contreras. If they could have a mulligan and undo the deal, I think they'd do it in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So why would you trade your big league ready catcher if you're that concerned about your big league catcher?
Because they like Kisner, as weird as it sounds. Like,
really interesting situation. What I will say, though, from the lens of Herera, he's just about ready for a shot. He's not striking out. He's walking. He's hitting the ball hard. Everything looks good. Everything. So we'll see what they do. But Herrera's forcing their hand, which is a great thing to do. That's all you can do as a player.
Yep.
Just turned 23, by the way.
Yep.
Simone Muzzioti. We've talked about him a little bit, so we don't need to go too deep. But Simone Muzzioti of the Phillies. Is there really a role for him? I don't know. Is he playing well? I do know yes. 88% zone contact, raking as of late. He's hitting 360. 360. Yep. And he's slugging a little bit too. High ground ball rate, that's fine. He's fast. He gets away with it. And he's not whiffing, so it's fine. This is a candidate that I think could get up to the big leagues and struggle. High chase rate, high ground ball rate, probably a higher risk prospect, given what he's doing versus what you'll get at the big league level. To me, this is Dave Dombrowski salivating at the trade chip he just found.
Yes, he is. He is an uncovered gem, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get a reliever for this guy."
Yep.
Yeah, I think spot on because you look at the outfield right now. You've got Schwarber. You're not moving off Schwarber. You've got Castellanos and right. Castellanos has bounced back pretty well, and then Brandon Marsh in center. You're not moving off Marsh either, and then you've got Harper DHing as he works his way back. So there's no space. I guess there's space on the bench. You could put him on the bench, but you're at risk of him underperforming when he gets to the big league
and
level.
He's 24. Like let him play in triple at that point.
Yeah. So I think that, this guy is a trade chip that's going to result in an 8th inning guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't go the way the Ben Brown thing did, which, by the way, we will wrap up with the Ben Brown start at the end. Hopefully it doesn't go that way for the Phillies with the David Robertson deal, which Robertson was good, but I don't think you want to give up a Ben Brown type. Muzzioti looks like a 4th outfielder to me. I think he could be a starting outfielder for a 3rd division team and maybe hold his own. But again, this is still a pretty good found piece there, and is forcing the Phillies' hands to either move him or potentially bring him up if somebody hopefully doesn't, but unfortunately goes down. Yeah. Jonathan Aranda I threw in here. He's technically not a prospect because he's been called up. I think he's kind of exceeded his rookie limits, but he is on one. 2 home runs yesterday for the Rays AAA affiliate in Durham. They've been playing him at 2nd and 3rd and 1st, so a little bit of versatility there. The Rays are the best team in baseball, so I don't want to keep saying the same thing, but you could see him getting moved. I also could see them using him in some capacity. They prefer Curtis Mead to him, and Curtis Mead has been hurt and underperforming this year because he's been hurt. So I could see teams trying to get Mead. They're going to say no. They could move Aranda. Aranda's so good, and I want to see him just consistently get at bats at the big league level. I know he hasn't performed at the big leagues, but he is more than ready to just get those consistent at bats. 321, 963 OPS, 321 batting average. He's walking. Strikeout rate's pretty low, 22%. He just hits. Aranda, I just don't want to see him as a Durham Bull anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he's played 156 games in Durham, and he's hitting 320 with a 930 OPS. 156 games for Jonathan Aranda in AAA. I'm just going to run you through the numbers. Slashing 319, 408, 522, 37 doubles, 27 homers, 127 driven in.
Think about this. Those numbers are nuts. You talk about Shane Bieber. He could plug into the Guardians lineup too and instantly be an upgrade bat-wise. Would he not?
Yes, he would. I mean, that's a crazy thought for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
That just
obviously
kind of shut me down. I'm short circuiting right now.
you got to add a lot more pieces, but Aranda is definitely somebody the Guardians would be interested in. He kind
Okay,
of
so
fits that mold.
question. Could you throw the Guardians, Aranda, and Manzardo in the same deal, or are they too similar?
Oh, I think Manzardo's so good. I think they'd really struggle to move him.
Yeah, but
But
that's what puts Tampa over the top,
yeah,
getting
it
Bieber.
does. It does. And you have Mead, and I still fully believe in Mead. And Xavier Isaac's coming up. I love that.
And you've got Yandy with service left.
Yandy's got so much control. You
You've got
could do it.
Isaac Paredes with so much
You
control.
could do it. You could do it. You could. And those are two pieces that the Guardians aren't getting two better bats than that. I can tell you that in a deal. They'd be hard pressed to find two better bats than that. And Manzardo looks just about big league ready too. So it's an interesting situation there. I think Manzardo is one of the safer bats you're going to find, maybe the safest bat in the minor leagues.
That would be one of those trades that just breaks your mind. Like where we talk about the Soto deal and how that breaks every prospect person's mind because they know like the possible talent that they're getting. If Cleveland got Aranda and Manzardo for Shane Bieber, that's one of those that I think, the casual baseball fan would be like, is this a good deal for Cleveland? And we'd be saying, oh my gosh, this is earth shattering.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. More deep cut name and a guy that I'm hopefully going to try to get on the pod pretty soon. Davis Schneider of the Toronto Blue Jays has been one of the biggest breakout bats this year. Schneider is 5'9", 180 pounds, 24 years old in AAA. And in an area that I really think it's interesting how much power this guy has added. So Davis Schneider, he's always been a speedy guy, puts the bat on ball and just kind of can play a bunch of different positions, and it's pretty dynamic. 102 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity last year. He had an 823 OPS. He's pretty much hit at every level. He's just kind of been overlooked. This year, 106 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity, a 4 mile per hour jump. You don't see that from 5'9", 24-year-olds. 4 mile per hour jump. He's got a 938 OPS in AAA. He's slashing 267, 388, 550, 14 homers. Schneider ditched his old timing mechanism for a toe tap now, and the toe tap has worked for him. He stays pre-stacked on his backside. The toe tap keeps him there, and he is explosive. It's letting his athleticism just eat as a hitter. He's hitting the ball in the air a ton, only a 32% ground ball rate. He uses the whole field. I think Davis Schneider's a big league piece. He's kind of that starter kit for Whit Merrifield. He plays second. He can play the outfield. He flies. He's got sneaky pop. He steals bags. I'm not saying he's Whit Merrifield, but I think he's a big league piece, kind of like Samad Taylor, who we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I love the Davis Schneider story. I think he was a 20-something round pick. He's a great dude, hard worker, and I think this guy deserves a big league crack. It'll take somebody getting hurt or whatever, but I think Davis Schneider provides way more value to the Blue Jays roster than Gavin Biggio, for example.
Yes. Listen, looking at his numbers, I'm totally with you. And the thing that jumps out, you mentioned the power surge. He's 2 back of his career best. He had 16 homers between high A, double, and triple last year. He's got 14 so far in 60 fewer games. Played 113 games, had 16 homers last year, 53 games, already 14. We know Buffalo from that, 2020 season that the Blue Jays were playing in Buffalo, that, ball gets out there. Like Marcus Semien was, a big fan of Buffalo and Dunedin. But dude, I mean, you can't ignore what this guy's doing.
You want to hear something hilarious? Because I was thinking the same thing as you were saying that, and I pulled something out. Well, first of all, the exit velocities will at least help contextualize that the uptick in power is for real.
Yeah.
But of course, that doesn't always mean home runs. It does. You'd assume that there'd be more home runs in an environment where the ball absolutely flies. Home games for Davis Schneider, 212, 340, 365 is 705 OPS. Away games for Davis Schneider, 311, 429, 699, and 1128 OPS.
Okay, so Davis Schneider just told me to go eat shit with those home road splits.
How weird is that, though? Because Buffalo is a launch pad. So
That's
he
like,
might, but there might be a backdrop there. Like it's a weird backdrop. I watched the Marlins play there. I remember in 2020, we watched those games. Like it's a little bit weird. Some people just don't see the ball well in certain environments, and that's a unique backdrop. It might just be that. I'm actually encouraged by those splits. I don't know about you, but like that's good news.
no, that's like a pitcher throwing really well at Great American Ballpark and sucking on the road. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make it easy. It's fully backwards here. No, maybe his diet is also on track on the road too. He might be spending too much time at Anchor Bar and Duff's in Buffalo.
Yeah, I would say too many chicken wings in Buffalo.
Yeah, too many wings.
I love it though. So I'm going to actually reach out to Davis and try to get him on because I need to hear about these home road splits now too. I think he's better than Samad Taylor. I really do, because he's younger by almost a year. He hits the ball harder. He provides a lot of the same things. That said, Samad Taylor deserves a crack too. He's now with the Royals. And the guy's just hitting 304, 408, 464, 872 OPS. The Royals stink.
Yeah.
Flat out. They just stink. And it sucks because Vinny Pasquantino just went down, ruined my year. I really feel for him with the shoulder. Call up Samad Taylor. You guys need just some excitement.
Yeah.
The power is fringy, and I don't think he'd hit more than 7, 8, maybe 10 home runs in a big league season.
Yeah.
But the versatility, the speed, the bat to ball, the patience, the walk rate, this is a big league piece. Even if it's as a bench player, he's a big league piece.
I was texting Jared Perkins, who's new to the Just Baseball fold, who is a big Royals guy. Great podcast coming to our network, Behind the Seams, which focuses on not only the mental health side, but also just the personal non-baseball side of baseball players.
The humans that they are.
Yes, exactly. The humans that they are. And Samad Taylor will be a guest on Behind the Seams. And I was texting him because Omaha came to Indianapolis last week. And I was like, dude, Samad Taylor's a big leaguer. I have no idea why he's not up there. I said the same thing about Dairon Blanco, who's 30. Blanco is up now. That guy stole 46 bags in 49 games in AAA ball this year, which is nuts. He was leading the league by such a wide margin. But with Dairon Blanco as the leadoff man and Samad Taylor as the two-hitter, that was game-changing speed at the top of that lineup. And Samad, if you've got a middle infield tandem, because Samad can play a corner, he can also play second base. If you've got a middle infield tandem of Massey and Witt with Samad spelling them or hopping in the corner, I'm just thinking about Samad Taylor at the bottom of that lineup turning back over to a Bobby Witt. Like, those are two very, very dynamic athletes.
And that's how you make this team watchable, and that's how you might win some ball games. That's how Oakland has been squeezing out some wins, is with Estory Ruiz and some of the other fun pieces that with speed and that you just impact the game in a few different ways. Samad walks, which I think is big because that's a team that does not walk. You have Bobby Witt, who doesn't walk. You have several other guys. Nick Prado has been awesome, and he's a guy that walks. But Taylor, last 2 games, homer. Game before that, 3 walks. He's walked in 3 consecutive games. He's so patient, and he's stealing bags. I think you look at the last, I'm going to try to queue up the last 8 ball games. He's 7 for 7 on stolen bases. Just bring him up. He's going to help you. He's going to make your team more watchable, and I think he can help you win a couple ball games. I know that they're not that interested in winning ball games right now. But Samad Taylor, great stuff over there. High floor guy. Speaking of high floor, Justin Foscue. Justin Foscue of the Texas Rangers, Jack. If I were making a trade, theme of the podcast, if I were making a trade with the Texas Rangers, and let's say it's for a blue chip, it's a big deal, like it's a massive package, Foscue's probably the second piece. If I went risky on the first piece, I would need Foscue as the second piece because he is as safe as they come. I would love to get Foscue in a return if I'm a big league team. If I'm a rebuilding team, this guy, let me hit you with some numbers. You can go with the surface level, but let me hit you with the behind the scenes numbers here on just how safe this dude is. And then I want you to kind of accentuate how that is translated into, on the field performance. 92% zone contact. 103.5 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity. I always talk about how I look for 2 types of hitters. Are you more of that contact, patience, and get on base kind of guy, hit tool driven player? Or are you more of that power driven player?
Yeah.
If you can be just phenomenal at one of them, then I'm not going to have as much worry about the other side. You usually want to be pretty solid in both areas. And obviously guys are going to be a little bit more proficient in one area than the other. For Foscue to be at the 99th percentile or 98th percentile in the hit tool department, I would pallet a 90th percentile exit velocity all the way down to like 100.5 miles per hour, like Samad Taylor. But I don't have to with him. 103.5 90th percentile exit velocities above average. So I have elite bat to ball, above average power, and a good approach. That is the safest profile I can find. I don't have to slide my scales. I can keep them both high. And that's why Justin Foscue to me is as can't miss as they come. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, but I'm saying he's going to be an above average big league bat who can play first, second, or third.
Yes. So that's what I was going to say. Defensive versatility, and you are finding the safest guy in minor league baseball at this point.
Maybe more than Manzardo, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's hyperbolic to say he is the safest bat in minor league baseball at this point. He's got 13 doubles, 8 homers. He's slashing 277, 405, 488. Thing that jumps out is the 15% walk rate and 11% K rate. He's never forfeiting at bats. Like, it's always resulting in a quality at bat.
Yeah.
And he can play 3 positions on the infield. Dude, he's going to make a big league team better, whether it's, I don't think it's going to be the Rangers.
It's hard to make them better.
Yeah, it's hard to make them better. And there's no space at either of those spots for him, at any of those spots for him. But dude, I think Foscue is one of those guys that an organization won't know what they're getting until they get him.
Yeah. 100%. Unless they're looking at these numbers. And if they are, that I'd be all over him as somebody that I think you just high probability big leaguer. You want those guys in packages. And I want to do an episode in the future of I was just talking about this with my good friend, Mike Rothenberg, a catcher in the Tigers organization, who's I think one of the smartest baseball players I know. We should do a philosophical episode of kind of what we look for and kind of how I break down the data, what you look at when you're watching guys. Because it was one of the more fun conversations I had. That was a little teaser in what I was talking about with Foscue, but that'll be an episode that we'll have to do down the line here. And I think people might enjoy that. Real quick, before we get to the last few players, a couple pitchers and one or two more bats, I want to tell you about So Rare MLB, which we've talked about on the Just Baseball show. It's free fantasy baseball that you can play with us. If you click the link in our episode description, you can join our league, which is a ton of fun. And I know that a lot of people that play or that listen to this podcast are like prospectors, dynasty fantasy, all that good stuff. The way it works here is you draft your team, you own those cards, you start your lineup, and you can win rewards. If you were really loving the free to enter competitions where you can win prizes and rewards, then you can enter the limited competitions, which of course I'm in, where you buy those limited cards, depending on who it is. Younger players are a little bit more expensive, just like Dynasty League, because you are holding onto that card and they can get better and better and better. But, I picked up Michael Lorenzen for $3. I picked up Kerry Carpenter for $4 and pieced together my lineup. In those leagues, you can win really rare cards that can put you into higher end lineups that can win you money, VIP experiences, tickets, all that good stuff. But if you just like playing for the fun of it, which I know a lot of people in my DMs do, I know you do too, Jack, draft your team for free, join our league, play with us. And in our league, we're giving away Just Baseball merch every week to the folks that come in first place. So it's a lot of fun. And if you come in first in our league, you're probably going to get a good reward from So Rare. You'll probably get a free limited card, which ends up being, if you don't want to build your limited lineup, you can sell that card, or you could use that to start building your limited lineup. It's a ton of fun, man. And it's been fun having people interact with us and tell us, this is my lineup. What do you think? And now I'm like, I'm not helping you too much because we're competing against each other, but it's been a lot of fun.
No, I mean, I'm getting trounced by a lot of our listeners, which is tough. I might need to start. I haven't spent a dollar and I'm having a good time, relatively speaking, having not spent a dollar. But the reason I'm having a bad time is because my cards that I've gotten at the end of each of the last 2 weeks are Nick Martinez and Tanner Houck. So I'm thinking I need to buy in a little bit more and not get stuck with this.
So the way it works is with the free to enter competitions, where you finish determines the tier of player that you get in a card reward. So you're finishing shitty and you're getting unexciting players.
Right.
For the free to enter competitions, you draft your team. You can draft good players. You just drafted crappy players. But also, when you finish, you get good rewards of, even if you don't get a limited card, you could still get a really solid common card, plug that guy into your lineup, and now your lineup just got even better. So you don't have to spend a dime, and your team will keep getting better and better. But if you want to get into the limited competitions, I can help you there, buddy. I can help you.
I appreciate that. And I drafted good players. Like, I've got McClanahan and Joe Ryan. I've got Tatis. I've got Luis Robert. And like, it's just not clicking.
It's just not click. That's the thing. They all got to kind of perform at the same time too.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun, and I think you guys will enjoy it. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me in the DMs to build your free team. If you want to get interested in building like the paid teams, that's also really fun. I'm happy to help you out with both. But free to enter, a lot of fun. Come play fantasy baseball with us at So Rare MLB. Link is in the episode description.
Yep.
Let's talk about a couple arms. Gavin Williams is an interesting one because I don't know if he's as imminent with the command issues he's had of late, but the theme of this podcast has been trading the frontline starter for the Guardians. If he is traded, you'd have to assume that Gavin Williams is the first man up, right?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
So that's the case. And it's so funny because these guys end up being so good that we pit them against themselves. And I think that's exactly what we're doing with Gavin Williams.
Yeah.
It's just the thing with him is when he was in double and the first few AAA starts, it was shutout or one run. Now, over the last handful of starts, he's given up about 2 runs a start. He had one start where he gave up 3 earned runs. Oh no. He's still been good. It's still been quality starts. It's been 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 6 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs. 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs. The long ball's got him a little bit, and the walks have got him a little bit. He's so good that he's pitched around that. But this is Gavin Williams kind of, I think, struggling. I think this is showing you how good he is. His last 6 starts, a 3.9 ERA, a 4.23 FIP, 11% K rate, 11% walk rate, 32% K rate, 4 home runs. He's going to have the stuff to bail himself out of pretty much any jam that he gets himself in, but he's just got himself in more jams with the walks. You teased it because he's also 2 hit by pitch in that span. You teased it, Jack. I really just think it's the walks. 4 home runs in 6 games. I mean, he's better than that, but that's not that bad. And 2 of them just came in Omaha. I really think it's the walks right now, and I'm not really worried about that with him.
No, I'm not either. The thing that jumps out to me is like, if 3 runs against him in a start is his worst start of the year, he's ready. That's my thing. He's one of the better pitching prospects in baseball because I think he's proven with, for the most part, a 2-pitch mix, and the curveball is getting better. He's mixing in a change every now and again too, but with that fastball slider, he is unblow-upable. Like there's no crazy start against him, at least in the minor leagues. Yeah. And when we see 2-pitch majority guy, like Strider just got tagged for 8 runs in 4 innings against New York at the end of last week. It'll happen, but the fact that it's not happening at the minor league level is really encouraging. So honestly, I'm taking some positives away from a quote unquote bad stretch for Gavin Williams, but the fact that he was so on and this version of him being off is still really good, it is incredibly encouraging.
I agree. And you looking at the last couple starts, we just talked about command versus control on the Just Baseball show. Yeah. And Gavin Williams has great control. The command has been great in spots. I think right now he's fighting some command issues. And I'm looking at the home runs he gave up. 2 were middle fastballs. One was to Samad Taylor and one was to Chase Strumpf. And then he got ambushed by Jair Camargo. And then he got ambushed by Johan Camargo on 2 high fastballs, which is really interesting. So, and both of them, by the way, were not really hit that well. One left the bat at 90 miles an hour and just flew over the wall. So it could be a little bit of batted ball luck, and that's about it. I'm not overly concerned about what he's doing here. And by the way, I think one of the last home runs he's given up on his fastball was to Matt McClain in that insane start that he had. So it was really just, I think, a little bit of 2 bad pitches, 1 ball that shouldn't have got out, and all of a sudden we're like, what's happening? And that's just sometimes how it is. Over the last few starts, he has been way better with mixing in the curveball and mixing in the changeup. I think that's been a point of emphasis, but that might also be why he's struggling with the walks because he's trying to throw pitches that he doesn't locate as well.
Yeah.
The curveball is just not landing for a strike nearly as much as the other pitches, but it's a decent pitch. So I think he's in this work through period. And once he comes out the other side, he's ready. So I think that comes in 4 starts.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think we're talking about weeks instead of months for Gavin Williams.
Yeah. Deep cut, and a guy that gives me legitimate PTSD is Evan McKendry. Evan McKendry of the Tampa Bay Rays. Let me preface, such a good dude. And another guy that I would definitely like to get on the pod. Grew up in the same area as him. He went to rival high school, and we played that team 2 times every year, and sometimes 3 in the playoffs. He was their ace. Our team was good to the point where, like, we had Griffin Conine, we had those guys. I batted 9th and was the scrappy guy. But damn, did it suck when we had to face Evan McKendry 3 times a year, because he is exactly what he is now. He was throwing 88, 90 then with just a nasty cutter, and he would just spot it. And like, dude, what am I supposed to do? Like, I mean, even guys like Griffin Conine, Zach Cohen, the pro guys were Mike Rothenberg, my friend I just mentioned, they were battling against him. But this guy would shove it up our ass every single time. Not because he was the hardest thrower that we saw. I mean, that was hard for high school, but how crafty he was and how much confidence he had in the zone. And it's just been so amazing. I don't like to talk about high school baseball in the pod too much, but the reason why I'm telling the story is it's been amazing to see him be that at every stop and just getting more and more razor sharp and perfect. There's no reason why a guy with that stuff should be getting outs at the AAA level the way he does, but he is. He's got it mentally. He's a competitor. He did it at the University of Miami. He did it through the lower levels of the minor leagues, and he's doing it in AAA right now. This is not a guy that the Rays are going to throw into the rotation, but he has been so good in AAA recently that I think this is a guy that if you need a spot start, you need somebody to fill in, you know he's going to come up there and give you a shot. And I think he's somebody that can also be a swingman for you. You look at the last 6 starts, Jack, a 1.04 ERA. Actually, let's go to 7 starts, an 0.92 ERA, 24% K rate. He gets ground balls. He's kept the ball in the yard, only 1 home run in that span, 35 strikeouts. He's just crafty, man. I think he can just get outs.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, as lazy as it sounds, my analysis is he's the best get outs guys in AAA right now, which is so unfortunate that I can't add any more than that. But that's what he's doing, man. He's punching out 7.5 per 9, and he's got a sub-3. He is a swing man. He's got 5 appearances out of the pen. He's got 8 starts. Get him up to Tampa. They are the kings of the multi-inning relievers. Yeah. You're telling me you don't want McKendry over Josh Fleming some nights?
Yeah.
Give me McKendry.
His cutter has been just unhittable. His 4-seamer's been this just kind of invisible, that 26% in zone whiff rate over his last 5 starts. I'm telling you, when I watch him pitch, it just like takes me back. I'm like in the on deck circle, like, what am I going to do? That was a guy that was sort of like, what do I do? Because if you don't hit the one fastball a game that maybe he misses with, good luck. You got to try and cheat for a cutter. And then the second he sees you cheat for the cutter, cambio or curveball, you're on your front foot. Like, he just outsmarts you. And sometimes there's guys that find success that way.
Now, if he can be a surgeon, he's a big leaguer. And he has been surgical so far this year.
I gotta get him onto it at some point.
Yeah, you gotta talk to him.
Great dude. We were supposed to talk to him when we went out and made that trip to the to Biloxi, but then they had a little bit of like it was still kind of COVID time. They had a little bit of a scare there, and he's like, we don't know what we're supposed to do, but I'm just gonna play it safe. I said, don't blame you. So we'll have to connect with him soon. Marlins arm reliever. This is the most dominant reliever in minor league baseball right now. I won't take another answer. I won't. Anthony.
No. Hey, hold on. The closer that I found in the Phillies org, Orion Kirkering.
Orion Kirkering. Has he been better than the numbers I'm about to spit out at you?
I don't know. Let's see. I'll pull him up.
Anthony Maldonado's last 4 appearances, 5 2/3 innings. He's in AAA for the Marlins, by the way. 5 2/3 innings, no hits, 1 walk, 13 strikeouts. That is a 0 ERA, obviously, a 76% K rate, and a negative 0.49 FIP. I know that's a small sample size. Let's go through what you can go through any amount of games. We actually talked about him. People might remember we talked about him in the Rule 5 draft episode.
We
And
also talked about him in the World Baseball Classic episode.
in the World Baseball Classic, yeah, he's actually come up probably more on this podcast than any in America. His last 21 games, I think this is the whole season that I'm pulling from right here. A 1.65 ERA, a 47% K rate, 48 walks to 9 or 48 strikeouts to 9 walks, 12 hits and 27 in a thirds inning. Like this dude is disgusting. Why is he not in the big league bullpen right now? Why was he not selected in the Rule 5 draft? His slider, I think, is one of the best pitches in the minor leagues. Opponents are hitting 0.59 against it. They're 4 for 68 against his slider, and his fastball's mid-90s. Maldi's good, man.
Yeah, so Maldonado, I remember seeing him in Pensacola when we were down in Pensacola last year, and I was like, this is a physically imposing MF. If he's a reliever, like, I'm scared of this guy. If he's standing 60 feet, 6 inches away from me, and Maldonado is throwing like a physically imposing guy. So just the surface level numbers are absolutely nuts for him so far this year in AAA. I mean, 16 Ks per 9, 3 walks per 9, and a $1.65 in 27 and a third innings. He probably is better than Orion Kerkering at this point. 20 appearances, 9 in low A, 11 in high A. Orion Kerkering, 22 and 2/3 innings, 3 earned is a 1.19 ERA, 36 Ks, 5 walks. But like, dude, Maldonado is doing it at the highest rung on the minor league ladder. So yeah, I mean, with how many jokes you can make about the Marlins bullpen, even though several of those guys have been really good this year.
Solid this year somehow.
Yeah. But like, there's always going to be space for an Anthony Maldonado in the Marlins bullpen.
Saying there's a space for an Anthony Maldonado in any bullpen.
I'll say
that. We'll wrap up with the Ben Brown conversation. Osvaldo Bido also made his debut for the Pirates. He looked all right. Is there anyone else on the AAA front? Because you put Michael McGreevy, he got shelled last start, and I'm not a McGreevy guy, so I honestly don't really want to talk on it. Graceffo's been hurt. The Pirates are in a weird spot, or excuse me, the Cardinals are in a weird spot there. Quinn Priester, do you think we could see him?
That's a good question, and I was asked about that on Pirates pregame last night. I went on to talk. He's
built for it mentally.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking with Dan Zangrilli about Bido and then about Priester, and Dan asked a good question. It was when Priester looks off, why is it? It's like, that's a good one. And my reasoning for that is I think he tries to match the moment at points, and he can overthrow a bit. He's 22 years old, man. And high school righties do need to go station to station. High school lefties need to go station to station. Just high school arms in general. Priester, like the start that jumped out to me that said, I understand why he still has some stuff he's got to work out. And he's strung together some really good starts as of late. I think it was a rough April. And since May 1, he has flipped the script, and he has been, I don't know how much stock he plays in a quality start, but he is just ripping quality starts left and right.
With a guy like him, you do, because he's never going to give you the 6 innings, 12 Ks.
No,
it's trusting. And I think that the answer is, my answer to that question would be, is he hitting his spots? Because he's not a guy that's going to be a big whiff pitcher ever.
Yeah.
The stuff's just not like that, but it is the kind of stuff that just gets a lot of weak contact, keeps you off balance. Like a much better version of Evan McKendry, like we were talking about. He is that guy. So when he's right, you see it. But when he's off, it's like it's kind of batting practice, because it's low 90s running over the middle and in a secondary that you don't have to totally fear. He doesn't have the bailout breaking ball or anything like that. It's good, but I don't know if it's totally bailout, if that makes sense. But you've seen more. Is that hypothesis fair?
It is.
Anywhere that you'd add, or anything that you'd add to that?
Yes. So Priester, I think he tried to match a moment a little bit too much in his worst start of the year. He walked 6. He didn't get out of the second in Columbus against Gavin Williams. And, like Quinn, talking to him even before he matched up with Simeon Woods Richardson at the beginning of the year, like he ID'd that and was like, this is a chance for me to like prove I'm better than, my opponent, which is a cool competitive way to look at it. Gavin Williams throws differently than Quinn Priester does. And Quinn, he threw like his hardest fastballs of the year. He was grabbing 94, 95, but he was yanking it. So I think he was overthrowing in that outing. I think that he was trying to muscle up, and that's not the best version of Priester. Best version of Priester is soft contact early in counts. The pitch usage has also differed on a start-by-start basis. Like his curveball is so fun to watch, and his curveball is good. but his curveball was hardly used for a couple of starts. He was sinker slider for the most part. And then he started mixing the curveball in. So I just want to see consistency with usage. And then I think he can be pretty close to ready.
Gotcha. No, I think that sounds about right to me. And I think he's going to be a solid 4-starter at the big league level, which is good. One more bullpen arm, and then we'll wrap up with Ben Brown. Cody Funderburk. Have you seen Funderburk at all?
Yeah, Cody Funderburk is a Tigers guy, right?
Funderburk is now Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah, I have seen Cody Funderburk. He's a big guy that throws hard, right? I don't have any like imprinted memories.
He's a lefty, big dude, and honestly just gets outs. I think you're thinking of, I think there was another Funderburk that you're thinking of.
But, yeah, there definitely was.
But Cody, so I wasn't expecting you to know Cody Funderburk. I don't know much on Cody Funderburk, but looking at the numbers, spotting the fastball, getting outs, getting whiff, and the Twins could use some more bullpen depth. That's for sure. He really is a reverse splits guy, so it's weird, but you can use those guys as reverse splits guys. I've seen the Marlins do that in the past with certain players. I think he's an interesting reliever and a relief option. He's been throwing really well of late, and I just feel like that's somebody that needs to be on radars if we're talking relievers. He's funky, and he just gets out. So that's another guy that I think could get called up to the Twins bullpen relatively soon. We'll wrap up with Ben Brown, who you turned in a really good start against your Indianapolis Indians yesterday. What was interesting is I didn't get to watch the start. You told me that the breaking ball wasn't really there. And what's interesting on top of that is he was coming off of back-to-back starts, 5 walks, 6 walks. He kept runs off the board in the second of those two, but walked 6, 2 earned runs. I mean, that's not what you love to see, but it's fine. He's working through things. He's not an imminent big leaguer because of that. But yesterday, 6 innings, 6 hits, no runs, no walks, 1 hit by pitch, 11 Ks. And you said the breaking ball wasn't there. That's a guy just saying, here's my heater, try and hit it.
That's the thing. He was flipping the glove up. And by the way, the guy that I was thinking about was Kyle Funkhauser.
Yeah.
Funkhauser, former Louisville Cardinal, was with the Tigers for a minute.
Yeah.
Ben Brown was 55% four-seamer, 45% slider. There were some pitches that were tagged as a sweeper because they, swept a little bit more than his typical slider. There was a pitch tagged as a cutter. There was a pitch tagged as a sinker and a changeup. Like those are throwaways.
I want to add to what I'm looking at here in terms of the shape and stuff. I do think that there was 2 different breaking balls he was throwing. I think that there's a curveball and I think that there's a slider.
Okay, interesting. So I saw some vertical drop on one, and not one. I saw some vertical drop on a couple, but the slider was fine. The slider got 7 whiffs. I've got on Savant here on 16 swings, which is good. This cat got 8 whiffs on his 4-seam fastball, and there were some plate appearances where it felt like Brown was flipping his glove up and saying, here's the heater, match it.
Yeah.
And it was bottom of the zone. It was top of the zone. It was east to west. He was putting the fastball for inning spurts absolutely anywhere he wanted. I didn't think this was the best version of the Ben Brown slider that I had seen.
No way.
The fact that he dominated with his fastball and at points with his fastball alone should tell you how freaking special this fastball is.
Yeah, and how good he can be, because we've seen those breaking balls be great. I think there was a level of probably still getting used to spinning it without the tact ball. And Yuri Perez is just now throwing his changeup. By the way, Yuri, unbelievable.
He looks so good.
We're gonna that's a whole nother episode we got to dedicate.
Yeah,
I'm gonna write something up on him too. Yuri mentioned the changeup taking some time to find a feel for. Ben Brown rips it, and I think that there could be some time to be found of just trying to get that feel for the breaking ball. It might be a little inconsistent for him. 80% strike rate almost on the fastball while getting 30% in zone whiff, while literally saying like, you're throwing the glove up, like you said. That's a really good baseline. When you got that fastball, you got a great chance of being a big league starter, and a good one. I have a lot of confidence in the 2 breaking balls. I think they blend together too much. Clearly Trackman agrees. And that's part of the problem. The Cubs have a pitching lab. They work hard to dive into those things. Basically all teams do, but they're very forward with that. I think that's something that will get adjusted. Maybe they want to wait to call him up before then. I think he still gets a big league look this year because he can ride that fastball to success, learn a lot at the big league level, and go from there. But the fact that Brown did what he did, given what you're saying, with the struggles of the breaking ball, is a testament to just how special he can be when he puts it all together. And I do think he will put it all together. I still think, so we're doing the top 100 update. It's getting there. A lot of guys graduating.
A lot of guys.
Because we had Casey Schmidt. We had guys that I think are just now entering some lists that are graduating. Yeah. So is this a top 100 arm from what you just saw?
Yeah, he absolutely is a top 100 arm. And I think
top 100 prospects, I should say. Top 100 prospect pitcher.
Yeah, no, this is 100% a top 100 prospect for me. The last thing that I want to add on Brown, we mentioned like there were points where he only had his fastball and he was dominating. I just want to run you through this lineup here because it is a mix of prospect intrigue and guys with legitimate major league service.
That should hit fastballs when they know it's coming.
Yes, he dominated with a fastball against Nick Gonzalez, Henry Davis, Andy Rodriguez, Miguel Andujar, Cal Mitchell, Jared Triolo, who's a good prospect, Aaron Shackelford, who's got an 850 OPS, and Ryan Vilade. Yeah. Like, those are all guys with either big league service or marquee prospects in the Pirates organization that he dominated with a heater.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. That's not the easiest lineup in the world. And
no.
How about Henry Davis too? We'll talk about him next week, but he had 2 hits in that game. Still, he has been phenomenal. He might be one of our
next 109. Everything is 109.
He might be one of our next eminent big leaguer conversations before you know it. It's crazy. Him and Endy together is a lot of fun. So I'm envious of you on that.
Yeah. 2 quick shout outs. Osvaldo Bido, 27-year-old, made his debut. Our guy Taylor Davis has had a big imprint on Bido, just being a more confident version of himself. And Bito's a guy with a big league heater and a good slider that he can pepper to right-handed hitters. So yeah, good for Bido. And then another call to the show, Chris Adams-Wall, who you met in Montgomery, the voice of the Montgomery Biscuits, is now the new pre and post game guy for the Tampa Bay Rays. So congratulations.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations to him. That's big time.
Yep.
That's great. Awesome guy. That's so cool. It's amazing. We were talking about it at that point. Well, what do you think's next? Where are you going? And then next time I hear about this guy,
I don't know.
He's at the show. Congratulations to him. That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing him on the big stage. That'll do it for this episode. We will talk to you next week about a bunch of different things. I think a lot of different performers, players that have been promoted. There's a lot of trends that I want to talk about. And I think we're going to peel back the curtain and kind of just have an open conversation on air about some of the players that we are kind of on the edge about on the top 100 and give you a little bit of a clue into our process here as we get ready to update that list in the coming weeks. As always, thank you for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you very soon.